Hi, I'm Jonathan Morrow, past president of ARA.
Hi, I'm Tom Andrade from Everett's Auto Parts in Brockton, Massachusetts.
In today's episode, we're going to be looking at the unique way that Everett's Auto Parts sources, checks in, and triages over 30,000 cars a year. Tom, thanks for having us today.
Welcome.
All right, Tom, take us on a tour of your facility.
Perfect. We'll start with acquisitions.
Let's do it. So what do we got right here?
It's a dual office. It's a scale house and it's also our used car office. In the scale house is where we handle all incoming vehicles.
So when you say scale house, what are we buying here, just off the street or off the weight or?
Everywhere.
Okay.
So we have on the road buyers. I handle a few accounts myself, but most of the work is done here. These are phone calls and leads from customers, retail and commercial again.
Really?
They come into these guys, they log them into the system, price them and log them into the system. They also handle all of the dispatching of the tow trucks, our internal tow trucks as well as outsourced drivers.
Do you think that's the most successful way to have a self-serve acquisition team? With your own tow trucks?
You have to have your own tow trucks in order to meet schedules and make sure that you're making the promised pickups. You don't necessarily have that control over an outsourced guy all the time, so you need your own trucks to do that.
Okay. So how many rollbacks do you have?
We own four cars and 4 2 cars. Currently operating 3 2 cars and 1 4 car.
Okay.
4 car drivers have been really difficult to hire.
I think it's a common trend everywhere that people that are good are hard to get.
If I could keep drivers in the seats and reduce our outsourcing, I would run all 8 trucks every single day. Just having a problem.
It's more profitable.
Yeah. Yes.
So this is something that I think some people go back and forth on. I've got to carry insurance. I've got to maintenance on the trucks if I have rollbacks, but you've run the numbers, you buy enough cars, you still are way in favor after the insurance is paid and the maintenance on the trucks paid, have your own trucks.
When you're at this volume, you don't have a choice.
There we go. That's an easy answer. These people in here you said they have accounts, they have leads they're going to get followed up on. Do they do anything from auctions? Do you do auction buys?
So we source everywhere. So we have an on-the-road buyer. We'll actually make visits to commercial shops, anything. It could be a garage, a dealership, used car dealer, taxi company, any sort of fleet company. He handles a whole bunch of whole car auctions. We try to source from anywhere. And then obviously we go after retail very heavy.
Gotcha. So the people in this room who are buying, they're going to handle your full service cars and your self-service cars and just your scrap cars.
Correct.
Because you have all 3.
We do.
And how many are they typically going to try to buy a year or a month or a week? What are your,
On average, we take in 100 vehicles a day.
A day. 100 a day. One facility. How many acres? Just
30 acres on the salvage side.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot. Okay. Are you buying by, is it by car? Do you buy weight, or is it by both? Or
so we have 3 main categories. So we have scrap vehicles, which are basically bought on weight. We do have a truck scale. Most people don't drive over the scale.
Sure.
We have a flat rate price model based upon the weight of the vehicle, catalytic converters, wheels. The buyers have buy sheets on price by size.
Okay.
Then there's self-service cars, stuff that we're going to put into our U-Picket yard. So we pay a little extra for those cars to make sure that we have a fresh population.
And they kind of just know that based on.
They do.
They just know.
They do.
That they're doing. Okay.
And then we also have our full service vehicles. Some of those things are bought by myself or by one of the buyers or bought at a salvage auction, and they were bought specifically for the full service yard.
Gotcha.
And then we have nice vehicles that come in every single day, and we'll mark those for evaluation, and our inventory manager will go through and determine whether he wants to keep that in our full service yard or not.
So, okay, that's a lot of moving parts.
There are.
If you do 100 cars a day, what's the breakdown of where the percentage of where they go?
Approximately 10 will hit the full service yard, 30 will hit the self-service yard, the balance will go to scrap and material harvesting.
Okay, and so you've got 1, 2. So the people that we see in this building, how many that might be working in here? They're handling a lot of the acquisitions. They're handling pickups, arranging pickups, and Do the payments to the customers come from here? The payment?
Everything. They'll field the phone calls. They'll price the vehicles. If we get the sale, they'll log it into Pinnacle. We dispatch the internal tow trucks from here, the outsourced tow trucks from here.
Okay.
And all payments and cash reconciliations are also handled here.
How do you pay for your cars when you pick them up from customers?
Whichever way they want. We pay cash. We pay check.
Okay.
Most people prefer cash.
Shocker, right? So, and then at the time, you pay when the car gets picked up, so the driver will leave with a payment.
Correct.
The customer doesn't have to come here to get payment.
Again, we're fairly flexible there. So if most of the time the transaction is made when we pick up the vehicle. Obviously, when it's cash, someone needs to be there to accept it. If it's a grab and go and nobody is going to be there, then we pay by check. Some companies want check only, and others want cash only. So it's really up to the customer which way they want to get paid.
And the drivers, I guess, are also bringing paperwork for the seller to fill out what they need to fill out for them.
They'll have to fill out a bill of sale. They'll have to inspect the vehicle to make sure that if we bought it on flat rate and it's a complete vehicle, that it does have a catalytic converter, wheels, battery. If not, then they have to contact the scale house and have a price reduction made. Gotcha.
And what you guys can't see right now is we've been having this conversation and I'm learning about everything going on. There's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 cars just rolled in here on rollbacks in this short amount of time, which is, once again, 100 cars a day at least, right?
Correct.
So that you got to run. So the bill of sale, so when you say flat rate, does that mean like a van might have a different price than a 2-door?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's based upon weight, wheels, cat.
Gotcha. And so if you get out there and the driver's picking up a car and he says, hey, these supposed to have 4 aluminum wheels, it's got 3 steels. That price is getting deducted. The driver has the flexibility.
No.
Or does he call back in?
No, the driver has to call back and get approval from the dispatcher.
Gotcha. All right. So you're in here, we're seeing this. Anything you want to point out that I think is just next level?
The only thing that I think we might do differently here than other yards is we kind of tweaked Pinnacle to be able to we kind of tweaked the vehicle not arrived panel so that we can track all of the vehicles coming in. Other than that, there'd be no way for us to manage the volume of vehicles that we have outstanding to pick up. At any one time, there's anywhere between 100 and 250 vehicles in the pipeline to be picked up. So managing it through Pinnacle is definitely something different that the system wasn't really designed to do.
As we're watching the cars come in, as we're hearing about the number of cars that will be coming in, the acquisitions are obviously doing everything we've talked about. How do we know the cars get in? Do they get checked in by the same team here?
Correct. So we use the vehicle not arrived panel in Pinnacle. So Pinnacle assigns.
So I'm not really familiar with Pinnacle. I know a lot of our users are.
Sure.
Or a lot of our viewers are used to Pinnacle. You utilize Pinnacle for everything you do here.
Correct. We have 3 partitions.
Wow.
We have 3 separate yards. One for our self-service and scrap. One for full service, and then a 3rd partition for used cars.
So you are manipulating the system in a way that works so well for you guys, but
Correct.
Most people don't even know how to do it that way.
Vehicle not arrived panel was designed to purchase your auction vehicles and track them coming in and be able to take that information and slide it over and not have to create a whole new record. So on the scrap side, Pinnacle assigns a internal stock number, and we use that to track the vehicles that are coming in. Once they come in, we actually assign our own internal stock number.
Okay.
So when you're looking in the panel, anything that has a Pinnacle assigned number has not been picked up yet. Anything that comes in, we assign our stock number, mark the vehicle as arrived, and it pulls it out of the panel. So that's how we manage what's outstanding.
So I think it would be interesting if could we walk outside and see these cars getting checked in?
Sure.
So you weren't kidding about the 100 cars coming in today, I can see.
So we have a vehicle being checked in by one of our drivers right here.
Okay. So obviously this vehicle is coming in, it doesn't have an engine in it, so that was probably known
Correct.
at the time of purchase or something like that, right?
There would be a price reduction for that.
So he gets in, and like you said there's a motor vehicle record inside of Pinnacle that you guys are not arrived. So do they have like a sheet where they...
Once the vehicle is physically arrives or picked up by our driver, we call them green sheets. It's a bill of sale.
Yeah.
And it'll highlight all of the demographic information on the vehicle: year, make, model, VIN, color, mileage, and all of that stuff is used to enter the MVR in Pinnacle. So we take the Pinnacle assigned vehicle not arrived record, turn it into a true MVR, attach our stock number to it, and enter the demographic information on the vehicle.
Gotcha. So are the people checking them in, are they determining if it stays in the you pull it, scrap, or the full serve? Okay.
No. That's done by either the buyer. When the tow driver gets his tow record, it tells them where it needs to go, whether it's going to be for our full service yard or for our scrap self-service yard or used cars.
Okay. And so with the drivers that are your Everett drivers, are they incentivized to get as many as they can a day, or is it just kind of a flat rate?
We've done both. We've done both ways.
Okay.
We were hourly. We were piecework for a lot of years.
Yep.
And we ended up going back to hourly during COVID.
Sure.
When it was more difficult to keep people. And we're probably going to go back to piecework because they're much more productive in a piecework environment.
I bet they are. So these are going to go to Triage?
Correct.
Can we go see that?
Absolutely.
Let's go. So what is going on here?
So these are our reserve bales. So we use it as a retaining wall.
Reserve bales.
Reserve bales.
Okay.
We use it as a retaining wall, so it's sight and sound barrier.
Yeah.
But mainly it's a reserve in case we have equipment breakdowns or there's a spike in the market.
Yeah.
Then we have
How many bales do you think you have up there?
We have about 30 loads around the wall.
30 loads around the wall, just in case.
Just in case.
Hey, it's nice to be able to have that.
It is.
But you can, and so I saw some engines over there. What is that? What's going on with those?
So we also export drivetrains, vehicles, vehicle cuts. We export to
vehicle cuts. You mean like quarter panel, half front, rear?
Yeah, front clips or whole vehicles.
And how did you get connected with that? Was someone just come up one day and just
found us.
Did they really?
They found us.
Okay.
We export to Nigeria, Dominican Republic, Egypt.
Do you get money
Venezuela.
up front? Do you get money up front?
Absolutely.
Gosh,
absolutely.
Good for you. So if you're going to export, don't get hosed.
If you're going to export, you want to get paid up front.
Yeah.
And you're never the shipper. They have to arrange all their shipping, transportation.
Do they load it here, or do you load it for them?
It depends. Most load here. Our guys are in the fork truck with them. We charge them a loading fee. We use the loading dock here. But you definitely want to be prepaid. You don't want anything on letters of credit, and I'll pay you when it arrives. Some of the shipping these days with the COVID backlogs, 3 months to get to Nigeria.
Wow. So when they were doing that, is that do they say I'm going to pay you this much for motors, or?
No, we tell them what they're going to pay for the motors.
Okay, we're getting. But I real quick, also, why did you do this?
Most of the time, rotors will carry a higher than #1 price.
Oh, they're higher than #1. So you'll sell them as a load of just rotors?
Correct.
Okay, just like this loose and they'll go in a can, right?
So we'll get them one of two ways. They fall off the vehicles when they're being processed.
Yep.
Or customers will come in and just sell us a straight load of rotors, or we'll have a roll-off can out at a shop and it'll be full of rotors.
So you're not going through any extra effort to take them off the
No,
cars?
just what falls off.
Gotcha. Okay, and they're bringing more than #1.
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. I was just checking. All right, so I cut you off on the exporting thing, but you're saying get paid up front, let them be the shipper.
Correct.
And you tell them what they're gonna pay.
Yeah, they always want to tell you how much they can sell them for on the other end, and I don't really care what they can sell them for on the other end. The product is worth this much money.
Yeah.
So you have to pay it, or you can't buy it.
Is that a stoplight? That's so neat.
It is.
Is that just
That's a stoplight to regulate the truck traffic. So we let one ramp truck up at a time to be offloaded.
Yeah.
So we can have one scrap truck being loaded, and we can have one ramp truck being offloaded.
Gotcha.
So once this vehicle is off and the truck spins around, they'll flip the light and the next truck can come up.
Neat stuff. I guess, yeah, you don't want to have your own trucks getting in wrecks in your own yard.
Correct.
That would be a problem. So we're walking up to processing, right?
Correct. This is the processing area where the bulk of the vehicles that we handle come through.
Gotcha.
So immediately when a vehicle arrives, it's going to be triaged by one of the loader operators.
When the cars come up here, you've got to determine where they're going to end up going.
Correct.
And that's the loader operator is the person who does that ultimately?
The department manager is actually a working manager in the machine.
Gotcha.
And he will make the decision on most of the vehicles. So when a vehicle gets offloaded, if it's obviously straight scrap, it's going to be put into a regular scrap pile.
Just like over here.
Correct. If it's questionable, then it's just going to be put on the ground by itself. We don't want to cause any more damage in case we want to.
So no one puts a stock number that separates it yet.
We have a stock number on the vehicle, but it doesn't mean anything at this point.
Gotcha. So there's no. They're making determinations as
they're going to make the decision.
Unless you bought it or your son's bought it at an auction intentionally, right?
Correct. And it's already pre-marked.
Does that still come through this way though?
It will.
Okay.
It will. So we'll offload the vehicle.
Yep.
We'll place it in a scrap pile if it's scrap.
Yep.
And we'll place it on the ground if it's not, if it's going to go into the yard.
Okay. So at Triage, I want to make sure I get this down because in my head I'm kind of blown away still. The cars are purchased, they're brought in, and then how are they determining, who determines and how do they determine where they go? Because some of the cars were bought with the purpose of the U-Pull-It in mind, right?
If it was bought specifically for the U-Picket yard
or
for the full service yard, the tow driver or outsourced driver already know that it's logged on their tow sheet. So when it's checked in at the scale house, it'll be marked NY for new yard or it'll be marked Y for yard.
Gotcha. Okay.
Any vehicles that are unmarked, then it becomes the responsibility of the department manager to decide where that vehicle is going to go. That department manager also sets vehicles in the yard, so he has a good idea what he needs to replace.
Okay.
So those vehicles will be offloaded. If they're scrap vehicles, they'll be put in a pile just like this one. And if they're good vehicles, they'll be set on the ground and not piled.
Gotcha.
And then we'll process them by vehicle type, a good row or a junk row.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense. So we've got purchasing, we've got triage, so now we're going to go to
processing.
Processing. All right. Is it right over here?
It is.
Okay.
So this is where we process all of the vehicles that are either going to go into the self-service yard or they're going to go straight to scrap processing.
Okay, so not full service.
Not full service.
So this is just scrap or you pull it?
Scrap or you pull it. So we'll put vehicles, 10 vehicles in a row at a time, and we have 2 rows going on. The guys on the ground will work on one row, and then they'll change to the second row while the first row is being changed out. In that process, we'll spin the lugs, remove the battery, extract the Freon, pull the mercury switch if there is one, and drain the antifreeze.
Right before that's when they're 10 deep in a row, right?
10 deep in a row.
Okay.
They work right down the row. One guy will work on lugs while the other guys are doing the stuff in the engine compartment.
Is this what they use to get the Freon out?
Yes.
I want to see this real quick. This looks really, I mean, usually people have it set up in the shop, but you have a mobile system.
We have a mobile system. They'll roll the cart right down the middle of the row and attach the Freon machine, extract it into the bottles.
Yeah.
And then we have a storage shed right here full of all the one side's empty bottles, one side's full bottles.
Gotcha. And so on these Freon, you have access, you can pull 2 different types of Freon. Is that what it is? Or
I can't pull not the newest, but we don't have any new stuff.
Yeah, but you're getting the 2, right?
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah,
the different types.
The 2.
And I saw a thing of wheels. You said you knocked the wheels off. Do you take the rims off the wheels?
No, we spin the lugs.
Yeah.
When the loader picks up the vehicle to move it to the rack process, the wheels will generally fall off, and if not, we give it a little shake and then they come off.
Do you de-rim the wheels though?
We do, but that's done in another area.
Gotcha.
So what will happen is once the loader cleans out the row, before they set the next row, they'll take all of the tires and wheels and they'll lace them into an open roll-off container.
Okay.
So we hand walk them in, we lace them, then we move the roll-off down to the front of the facility, and we'll de-rim everything there.
So in your U-Pull-It, there aren't any wheels in your U-Pull-It.
There's no wheels and tires on the vehicles, and the vehicles sit on the ground.
So in your U-Pull-It, you will sell tires, but not at the vehicle,
Correct.
And you will not sell wheels.
We will sell wheels, but they're inventoried.
Okay,
they'll go through the full service. The tires, when we get down and see that, the whole rear of the building is racked, ready to go with singles, pairs, and sets.
Gotcha. Okay, so we got the Freon out, you've got the battery out, the mercury switches, the antifreeze, and now the cars move to...
Correct. The wheel loader will pick up the vehicle, and they'll stage it on 2 dismantling racks.
Okay.
Both racks are equipped to handle 2 vehicles at once.
Yep.
At that point, we'll drain the oil, transmission fluid, remove the gas tank, cut out the catalytic converter.
Okay.
Once that's done, if it's a U-Pull-It vehicle, it'll be staged to be set into the U-Picket yard, which is behind us.
Gotcha.
And if it's a scrap vehicle, it's going to go through the scrap process.
So it'll just be like taken right from here back to the back.
Correct.
Behind them. Okay. And that's because your inventory or your head team leader has determined that's a U-Pull-It car.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Right.
Excellent.
So now we'll walk over to the scrap processing area, and we have 3 separate machines that pretty much break the vehicle down before crushing.
It's great. I can't wait. Once again, you have so many cars coming through. This is like nonstop.
It's constant. It's constant. We always have 100, 150 cars, sometimes more, in the pipeline ready to be processed.
Yeah.
These guys generally work Monday through Saturday.
Wow. Okay. What do you do with these?
Lug nuts. Also HMS.
So you pull these off and you sell them by the weight, right?
The guys have to spin the lugs anyway.
Yeah.
And before they would drop them on the ground, and then we would clean them up and we would sweep up with attachments on the machine at the end of every day. Now they go around with a bucket and they drop the lugs right into the bucket when they're spinning the wheels, and it goes into a container and it goes on an HMS truck.
Wow. And they'll pay you by weight on this.
Yep.
Nice. And you've got these starters and alternators. Are those fall off because you're not getting them off at the...
Correct. This is just stuff that comes off the vehicle. Some of them come off easy. We may take some of them off. Some just fall out. But again, this is another product that's sold to Allied. So we sell starters, alternators, and compressors, all for electrical scrap.
Okay, that's good to know. And so when you're doing all of these things, you've got all your scrap. You've got scrap here that we're going to see when they're taking it apart. Do you have a commodities person, or is that you? Or
that would be me.
That'd be you. Okay. I mean, with all this stuff, I mean, I'm sure it's a massive. It's really important you get this right.
I make most of the deals with the scrap companies.
Okay.
So, in this area, the vehicle's first going to go to the excavator. The excavator has a 2-finger rotating grapple and a set of hold-down arms. We'll slide the vehicle under the hold-down arms, tear the hood off, remove the radiator and condenser, remove the wiring harness, remove the motor and transmission. We'll then flip the vehicle over and pull off any heavy melt steel that we can get out of it, whether it be a truck frame, a rear end, engine cross member, whatever's heavy.
Like the cradles, if you got a cradle, if it's aluminum, it'll go aluminum, steel.
Correct.
Do you do struts or spindles?
No. Some of that stuff ends up coming off in the process, but for the most part, we're trying to grab HMS. So
what is HMS for the people who may not know?
Heavy melt steel.
Heavy melt steel, which is going to be, like you said, the truck frames, the K-frames, and that's about it, right? Or rear ends.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
The excavator operator will separate out aluminum. He'll separate out wiring harness. He has work piles behind him. And then obviously the dirty motor block product. Once he's done with a vehicle, that creates a little bit of a mess with things falling off the vehicles. So he'll stuff fenders and doors and things that fall off right back in the vehicle. He'll swing around and it'll go to the baler.
Got it.
So we use a baler instead of a crusher for a couple of reasons. Unfortunately, when you're a coastal yard, you end up feeding the export market.
Sure.
And having ability to reach that domestic market, which sometimes that can pay more money, is really difficult, getting empty backhauls on flat trailers. So with the baler, it allows us to get more product on a truck, or even better, to use rail.
How long have you had the baler for?
We switched over to balers in 2008.
Oh, so you've been running balers for a long time.
For a long time.
And it's 1 car per bale?
1 car per bale.
And what's the cycle time on it?
3 to 4 minutes.
Okay.
A little longer than a crusher, but it allows us to be able to store vehicles. If I were going to store 50 loads of scrap in crushed format, it takes up a tremendous amount of space compared to
what you can do with their bale.
What you can do in the baled format.
So I think that's interesting. I mean, obviously the investment's there for people who have to get a baler over a crusher, but having that's made your life, like he's got a reserve. a reserve system of like bales cars ready to go out if the market goes up, or just for space, or if a piece of equipment goes down, which is amazing. And you've got your HMS over there in a pile.
Correct. So all of the frames that are taken out from this process get piled near the baler.
Yeah.
We'll move them over with the loader, and then each morning one of the operators will get out of their machine and they'll go into the shear and they'll shear the HMS.
Gotcha. Do you guys have any pre-cats that are still in the motors here?
The excavator operator, if there's a pre-cat, will take it off of the motor.
Oh, he'll just pop it off with the finger?
He'll just pop it off with the finger. So behind him, he has a pile of aluminum, he has a pile of catalytic converters, he has a pile of wiring harness, all that different stuff. Whenever we have box trucks, you know, we'll strip down sheet aluminum, we'll strip down extrusion aluminum. We capture as many products as we can.
How often when do you take the motors you have in transmissions and load them out? Is it daily?
Every day.
Every day. So you get it loaded and you roll it out.
We use the same cartage trucks that we load our bales in.
Okay.
So we send, and all of our trucks run overweight permits, so we can run up to 100,000 pounds.
Wow.
So we send out a load of motors every single day.
Every single day.
We send out at least, our daily average is 5 to 6 loads of bales, 1 load of dirty motor blocks, 1 load of HMS, and then anything else that we have, steel wheels, aluminum wheels.
And they're all your trucks?
No.
Oh, okay,
no.
okay.
Well, we have 2 cartage trucks, so we run the majority of the bales. Allied Recycling does our motor blocks, our wiring harness, and our loose ferrous loads. And then we have another company. You know, the companies change. A lot of the companies change frequently depending on market and price.
So Allied's getting, what are they getting again? Allied's getting your motor blocks?
They get our dirty motor blocks, they get our wiring harness, and then we send them loose ferrous loads.
Gotcha. So how often are you sending wiring harness out, roughly?
Wiring harness goes out about every 3 weeks. We fill up a gondola truck with wiring harness every 3 weeks.
And so with the amount of stuff you're doing, having the strategic partnerships is wildly important for like trust in the weights and trust in payments.
Absolutely.
And so Allied's that company for you.
They are. For years before we took out motor blocks, all of that stuff just got either crushed or baled in a vehicle, and the shredder got the benefit of all that extra material.
Yeah.
That product brings more money than cars. And when you deal with somebody like Allied, they're a niche shredder.
Yeah.
So they're running that product separately through their process. They have a pre-shred and a sophisticated eddy current to really be able to separate out that material, and that allows them to pay us better than a larger mega shredder.
So you've got this down. If you were looking at somebody, or they were trying to get to that next level in the production or this part of our industry, what would you say is the most important thing they need to work on first?
If they're not pulling motors and transmissions, that would absolutely be the first.
Okay.
And you can do it with or without an excavator. You can do it, you can do it a whole bunch of different ways. You can get SAS forks that go on your wheel loader.
Yeah.
Hold the vehicle down, pull the motor out. But that is the single most profitable product if you're crushing your vehicle and sending it to a mega shredder with that material inside.
Okay, there we go, guys. That's what it was. If you're starting here and you're sending your cars out with the drive line still in them, Tom's saying you're missing out on a lot of money and a lot of opportunity. So do it.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so what's next, man? What's the next part of this process?
So the next part, we'll go into the self-service yard. So the self-service yard are the other vehicles that we process that don't come directly to scrap.
All right, let's do it. From Everett Auto Parts and ARA, we want to say thank you for watching this.
We'd like to especially thank our sponsors, Allied Recycling and Rebuilders Automotive Supply.
If you like what you're watching and you want to see more of it, like and subscribe to our channel.
Well, thank you guys, everybody, for watching. We've got a fantastic viewing crowd watching this video, so I'm very excited. At this point, anybody watching, if you have any questions about what you just watched, please just type them into the chat or to the comment section on whichever platform you're viewing this on. And then we're going to take some questions. But I really want to thank our sponsors, Rebuilders Automotive Supply and Allied Recycling. And I know we talked about Allied during this episode. We're going to talk about the benefits of working with RAS in a future episode once we get to the full service part. But I'll give you guys a second. Tom, I'd like to hear from you real quick about a little bit more about your relationship with Allied and how that's working for you.
Whenever I've done presentations at any of the associations, one of the things that I always have in there about commodities is using multiple vendors. And I was the first person to break my own rule. For years, we were exclusive with one scrap company, and the breakup that I had with that scrap company really came through Allied. Allied did a test run on my motors through his shredder, and they were able to return a much higher return, especially them being a smaller niche shredder versus, a mega shredder. And that was kind of the thing that really broke me up with the Sims and Schnitzers of the world. They still get our vehicles as boned out as they are. But it was really Allied and that breakthrough. Then we started exploring other products, and now they take our dirty motor blocks. They're probably about to take over our HMS. They do our wiring harness. We do all the electrical scrap with them. So they have been a great partner, and have definitely added money to our bottom line.
Great. And for anybody who is interested in reaching out to Allied, you can reach out to me at ARA, and I'll provide you with their contact information. Or if you're watching this video, after we're done being live and you're just rewatching this at a later date, you can just back up at the very end of the video. We have a little screen on there that has the contact information for both Allied and RAS. We do have a question coming, and it's from Never Stop Pulling off of YouTube. And they're asking, how much room would you recommend for a U-Pullet yard? Now, the interesting thing about this question is, Jonathan, you recently opened a U-Pullet yard, and so you can speak to this as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is, it's not a one size fits all, I would say. I think some people would tell you that you gotta have 20 acres and that's all. You gotta have 20 acres because that's what they do. I've seen some people operate on 5 acres, but I've seen some people operate on less than, 1. I mean, it depends on your concentration of population. It depends on how fast you turn your cars over. There's so many variables that are at play. Tom, I don't know, how many acres do you have in your U-Pull, Tom?
So we have about 6.5 or 7 acres dedicated to the self-service operation. We don't hold a lot of cars. We only hold 650 vehicles or so in the self-service yard. We lay our yard out by make and model, not by date or not by make alone. And we turn our vehicles very fast. We could set a row of Camrys or Accords on a Friday and have it completely, boned out by Monday morning and have to reset that whole row. Our entire yard gets swapped out in about a 30-day average.
Yeah. So never. Go ahead, John.
Just to kind of add a little bit to that for Never Stop Pulling. For ours, we've put about 825 cars in the yard, and we've allocated about 9 acres to it. They're really tight. But I would say, that's what we were able to allocate for this, for our U-Pullet. And we're excited about what the reviews we're getting. The major competition in the area, they have a lot of cars. But sometimes, like Tom, you said, it's how often are you cycling the cars out? How often are you giving the customer fresh inventory? And then, a lot of them are looking for those tires and batteries. Tom, you guys do a great job with tires. And obviously you have a lot of batteries based on the volume of cars you're doing. So those are the things that kind of can set your yard apart.
Yeah. And so just for Never Stop Pulling and anybody else watching, one of the next parts, this is a first part of a 3-part series that we're doing on Everett's. And the next one is fully focused on the self-service operation. So you're going to want to mark your calendar for a week from today at the same time, 1 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern. And we're going to do this exact same thing with the next episode, which is going to be completely focused on self-service. So appreciate you watching. Appreciate the question. We have another question from Robert Salvage. Tom, what do you consider your area size that you pull from, or what size of population you draw from?
So we're about 30 miles south of Boston. So we don't really pull anything, parts or vehicle wise from downtown Boston, but the surrounding towns, Roxbury, Mattapan, Jamaica Plain, we pull from there. We pull from our local Brockton area, usually down to about the Cape Cod Canal, the start of the Cape Cod, and down to about Providence. So just Boston and Brockton alone, we're pulling from population of probably 1,000,001, 1,000,002. You add the Providence region, you're probably talking almost a couple million people in our general in a 45-minute radius.
Tom, I thought of something while we were watching, particularly when you were walking with Jono and talking about your exporting piece of your business. And for those watching in real time, we know that there's currently a dock worker strike happening. What's your perspective on that? How do you think that's going to impact you? You think this will be over fairly quickly, or what do you have to say about that?
We were actually talking about this morning. I have a load sitting at my dock right now that we can't load because they can't get a container, and that was scheduled to be loaded about a week and a half ago because of the impending strike. The container company didn't want to supply the container. So from a really high level and a little bit of a geopolitical level, it's going to be a problem. If they don't settle this thing quickly, you're going to run into supply chain shortages and price increases on products. And I don't think that the White House or the two candidates, because we're only a month away from an election, are going to let it get too out of hand, because they have a whole host of other problems that they need to deal with. They definitely don't need this thrown into the election. So I'm hoping that it's short term. Unfortunately, we're a coastal yard, so our export, all of our scrap in New England goes to Turkey. So ships that are being loaded and ships that are scheduled and already sold, that's going to be a problem for the shredders. They're going to run out of space after they process the material and don't have a ship to put it in. So I don't know. I don't know how many of those ships will be stopped from this. They're not containers, and they don't really go in, but they still go into port. So I don't know.
Yeah. So Donnie from YouTube has asked, what about cars without title? What's the deal in Massachusetts, and how does Everett's navigate that?
Again, Massachusetts is a title required state. There is no 10-year-old rule or anything like that, or certificates of destruction or salvage that some other states have. It's unrealistic. You're paying a few $100 for a junk vehicle. The Massachusetts registry in particular is probably one of the organizations that exploited post-COVID worse than any other organization on the planet. You still can't go in physically for a lot of commercial stuff, and people are not going to go spend $100 to get a duplicate title to have that junk car taken away for a couple $100. So do we take them without titles? Yes, we do. Is it legal in Massachusetts? No, it's not. We try to do a little bit of due diligence to make sure that we're protecting ourselves. We require a driver's license and a matching name on an insurance paperwork, previous registration, excise tax bill, something that matches the VIN to the vehicle, to the person with the license. Is it foolproof? Absolutely not. I end up in court a couple, 3, 4, 6 times a year. Most of the time, we ultimately win. It costs us a few dollars here and there. Unfortunately, it's just a cost of doing business.
Gotcha. So Chris from YouTube asked a question about production. How many people do you need for production on the self-serve and scrap cars, and also about the full service side. Now, I want to address Chris's question, and we kind of we'll tease what we have coming up. We don't want to give away too much, but because Chris, we do have a whole nother episode coming up next week on self-serve, and then the week after that, we're doing a whole nother episode of Everett's for full service. So I hope you tune in and are able to watch those. But Tom, go ahead.
So hey, Chris, good to see you on here. And if I can't answer all those questions, Vince told me not to. You can just call me after this. So as far as the production crew goes, we have 2 guys that work under the racks. We have 4 guys that work on the ground doing the 2 rows of 10. And then I have 1, 2, 3. There's 3 wheel loaders in the area that are unloading vehicles, setting rows, unloading the rows, putting stuff on racks, and then kind of a utility guy that fills in some of the holes. And then I have a couple of operators. I use 2 operators to run 3 pieces of equipment. So one of them's in the excavator with the grapple on it. One's in the baler. One of those guys jumps out to shear at some point in the day, and they both share the duty of getting out and loading trucks, because we use a different grapple setup to load the trucks. So, short answer, there's about 6 guys on the ground, 5 guys in machines. And then I do also have a couple of the guys that do the export and cutting big trucks, and there's 2 guys there.
And how many full service cars are you processing a month?
Full service, we average about 30 cars a week. So, 100, 120 cars, depending on the month.
All right. Rodney,
that's a different crew. We have, there's dismantlers that do that, but
right. And we're going to show all of that in a couple of weeks. So, Rodney's on here with a question about marketing budget.
So we had a pretty robust marketing budget. We have always done all of the local stuff that I'm sure most everybody does. High schools and youth sports teams and any local advertising that we can do. Not a lot of money in most of that stuff. Just prior to COVID, we had a pretty robust television commercial and online social media advertising. We were spending, I'd say, about 15 grand a month between those 2. We shut it down during COVID when we were trying to minimize expenses. We have not turned it back on. We actually just did some the day after these guys were here shooting this video. We took some updated video from my advertising company, my marketing company, so we can probably put ads back on TV. But it was about 15,000 a month was our budget prior to stopping it.
Do you do any Google pay per click?
We're not right now. We stopped everything other than the local stuff. Any of the stuff with the bigger dollars, we stopped.
Gotcha. Jono, do you have any questions for Tom before we begin to wrap things up?
Questions. I mean, I really got to ask a lot of questions when I was there. I think one of the things that people are really interested about how it all fits together, which I think is going to be critical to seeing the next couple of presentations we have to make, right? So, because it's seeing this part of Tom's business, the acquisition part, the depolluting part where we were, and the scrapping end, it's in its own right interesting, but it's almost more interesting when you start to see it intertwine and dovetail back into the U-Pullet side, right? So, I got to see it firsthand. I know, Tom, if you're up, I'm sure if anybody on here is up in Brockton, you can pay to go into the U-Pullet, or just go to the U-Pullet, or you could just kind of see if Tom will give you a tour.
So let's, I'll tell you what, next week is self-service, and then following week, like I mentioned, is full service. Let's tease a little bit of that. Jono, what is it that stood out for you? You talk a little bit, if you want, about how they all intertwine that you were just referencing, And then maybe like what really stood out for you in each of the next two episodes, the self-service tire center and then the full service aftermarket parts.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you look at the volume of vehicles that are coming into the facility and the way that Everett has just created the autonomy of the managers to decipher where the cars are going to go, that to me was a statement of just trust and giving the right SOPs to people to know how the process is going to work for those cars to come through the acquisition side to the you pull it or to just straight drain. But the second thing I say is every one of those customers that's coming into that facility gets checked out by a certain number of people. And that is a unique thing that I have not seen before. And they handle it so well on that. And just the ability to, on a footprint, take care and handle customers from a shop to a person looking for a lug nut on their car, right? And they're funneled through a single place and it's done well. I think that's just great and it's phenomenal. And their uniqueness of Tom expressed, like the tires are not on the vehicles and you pull it. Now, a lot of U-Pulls I've been to, they have the tires and the wheels on the car still, and he has a different way of doing that. And it works so well for Everett's in their facility, in their area. There's little nuggets like that you start watching this, you start realizing that you do it one way, I do it one way, but in the end, there's so many different avenues to do it to make a little bit of money. And you're going to watch things to see things in that self-service side if you're a self-service operator. And I'm guaranteeing you're going to watch it. And you're going to go, I'm going to do that. It's going to make me more money. Thank you, Tom. So just tune in next week. It's going to be good.
Awesome. Mark put a question in, not necessarily about this video or Everett's, but I guess directed to ARA. Will stormwater issues be addressed in any future videos? Mark, we haven't done anything specific about stormwater other than what, if you were to watch, we do have a video on our channel where we interviewed Nick and Greg Dario from Dario Auto Truck in Pueblo, Colorado. They were visited by 5 environmental regulators one day, and a lot of it had to do with stormwater and other environmental compliance. We talk a lot about it on that video. If you want to reach out, I'll be happy to send you a link, or you could poke around on our YouTube channel. I'm sure you'll find it there. And Paulie D, how do you manage all of it? Yeah, this is a great question, Paul, because the one thing that I took away when I was there doing this, filming this, is that there are so many processes. So, Tom?
So that's a loaded question. And I will answer it and I will explain it because I know Paul's sitting there laughing right now. So we developed a book. It's called E-Reference. It contains all of the company policies, procedures, and job descriptions. I equate it to, when we were developing it, I always equated it to the Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. You'd have a guy that was a third string guy catching touchdowns in the Super Bowl because of Bill Belichick's system and his plan and his training. So that book was painstakingly put together. So it has all corporate policies, how you call in sick, how you punch into the time clock, everything that anybody would need to know. Then it has job descriptions for every department, and then it has detailed procedures. How do you load a scrap truck? How do you take a part off of a shelf? How do you process the vehicles in a row? The reason that Paul is asking that question is because Paul was the database mastermind behind it and helped us put that together prior to joining RAS.
Are you saying that Paul set himself up to
he
be
did.
Acknowledged and credited?
Well, that is just a nice pat on the back, Paul.
That's a great question, Paul. That's awesome. And honestly, listening to you talk about it, sounds like you could probably almost do a whole 20 or 30 minutes just about that one document. It sounds like it's a living document that is being updated on a regular basis, obviously.
Every day. We try to do an annual update on it and reissue it to everyone, but there are things that change every single day, and our HR admin updates that stuff. Paul and I joked at one point it's probably something that we could have marketed and sold in this industry, because most people don't take the time. Because it was a lot of time. We had done a management training session with Paul as well. The whole management team was off site once a month and went through a whole training curriculum that Paul and his wife developed. So Very beneficial, but it is a lot of work. What's that?
How much is it going to cost?
It would have to be a real number. That's a lot of it's a lot of information. The one thing that I just wanted to say about the future episodes, you know, we do quite a bit with scrap, and we do it a little differently than I'm sure some people do. If you were to ask me that same question that Jono answered, the most unique thing about us is the hybrid makeup of the facility, which you will definitely see in detail in the future episode. For years, all the consultants told us, so we're a hybrid facility. All the customers come in the same entrance. There's not separate U-Pull-It and full service entrances. They have access to the salesman, where a traditional U-Pull-It yard, you'd go in, you'd buy your part, you'd see a cashier. And I think that all the consultants that I've had here over the years tried to have us do separate entrances and break it apart, separate facilities. And we made the plans and got close to it a whole bunch of times, but we backed off every single time, because I think that's really the secret sauce for us. So that's probably the most interesting thing. When I hire a new salesman, and they are tough to keep in the fast-paced retail, open 7 days a week environment, whenever I hire a new one, I quote the Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump, life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get. Customer's going to come through the door, and it could be a self-service customer, a full-service customer, could be retail, could be commercial, and any combination of that. So that's the most unique thing, that if viewers are interested in the second and third portions, that's what really makes us different.
Yeah, it's fascinating for all of you watching. Obviously, I want you to tune in for the next couple episodes, but that is definitely one of the most unique things. I know Jono and I, our heads were exploding as Tom was unpacking that his salespeople, they handle all aspects, whether it's full service, self-service. I think the only thing that they don't handle is the new tires. They send them across the street. We'll cover that as well. So we are coming up on an hour, and that's kind of where what I figured we would be doing to cap this off. I got one more question from Facebook. John Walsh is on there, and he says, do you have a certain budget for buying vehicles off the street and vehicles for auction, from auction?
Budget, like an overall budget? No. I mean, whatever we can buy, we're going to spend. I have a budget per vehicle. I'm not going to obviously overpay for too many vehicles and lose money. But if I could get 300 cars in a day, I would get 300 cars in the day, as long as they're bought at the right number.
Yeah. Well, guys, I want to thank you again. Thank you, Tom, for opening up your doors and letting us come up here and do this. And thank you, Jono, for always being willing to participate in this when we do it. I love doing this. We all get a lot of positive. Jono, I know you get a lot of feedback when we're out and about at different trade shows. People in the industry seem to really enjoy this series, and so we're going to continue to do it. Want to thank you once again for watching, and especially want to thank our sponsors, Allied Recycling and Rebuilders Automotive Supply. Unless you guys have anything else, we're wrapped up. I appreciate it. Go ahead, Jono.
I've got one more thing, and I think Vince hit on the head. For anyone who's still watching, there's a lot of great questions, and we're going to answer a lot of those questions in upcoming episodes. But also remember, we've got videos online as well that you can use as a resource. So look on there, look in our YouTube page for the other yard tours. As we build a catalog and a library, it's just going to give so many people the opportunity to not leave their business, not leave their house, and learn about as much as you can if you even visited the yard. So that's the intent of this, is to educate and help every recycler become better.
Yeah.
So thank you for watching.
Yeah. Thanks, Jono. Yeah. On our YouTube channel, we've got a playlist, and it's titled Facility Tours. And under that, you can go in there, and we've done multi-episode tours of B&R out in Oregon. We've done Nordstrom's in South Dakota. We did Wilbert's, Eric Wilbert's U-Pull-It yard. We did a tour of Midwest Runner a few years ago, which was really fascinating. And now we get to add Everett's to that collection. So thanks again, guys. We'll see you in a couple of weeks in Reno. So we're going to do next week. We're going to do this. Following week, we're going to do this. And then the week after that, we're going to see everybody face-to-face in person in Reno, Nevada at our 81st annual convention and expo. So we look forward to seeing you guys.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.